Rain fell hard over the valley that night. The storm howled like a wounded beast, shaking the roofs of the small mining town. Everyone had locked their doors, afraid of the thunder that rolled down from the Black Mountains. But one man was still outside, Evan, a young mechanic who fixed mining bots and broken power cores. He was walking back home when he heard it, a sound that didn't belong to the storm. It was a cry, not human, not machine. It was soft, high and trembling, like a baby in pain. Evan froze. The sound came from the old cave, the one no one entered anymore. People said dragons once lived there, that fire still slept under its rocks. Every child in town was told never to go near it. But the cry came again, louder this time, sharper, filled with fear. Evan's heart beat faster. He should run. He should go home. But his feet moved on their own. He grabbed his flashlight, took a deep breath, and stepped into the rain. The cave's mouth looked like a monster's open jaw, black and wide. He entered slowly. The air inside was cold, wet, and heavy with the smell of burnt stone. Water dripped from the ceiling. His flashlight beam danced over broken tools, bones, and piles of ash. Then he heard it again, closer now. The baby's cry, "Hello?" Evan called softly. His voice echoed against the stone walls. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The sound stopped. For a moment, only the rain outside could be heard. Then something moved in the shadows. A flash of silver blue. A small, glowing shape curled behind a rock. Evan took another step. His flashlight revealed a small creature, no bigger than a toddler, with tiny wings folded tight around its body. Scales shimmered like wet jewels, and its eyes glowed golden in the light. It was trembling, holding a bottle between its claws. Evan's mouth went dry. A baby dragon. The dragon hissed softly, smoke curling from its nose. It hugged the bottle to its chest like a child protecting a toy. "Hey there," Evan whispered. "You're just a baby, aren't you?" He crouched slowly, trying not to scare it. The dragon growled, a weak, frightened sound. Its claws tightened on the glowing bottle. Evan noticed strange markings on the bottle's glass. They looked like royal symbols, crowns, wings, and an ancient script he couldn't read. The milk inside shimmered with light. "Are you hungry?" Evan asked softly. "Is that why you're crying?" The dragon stared at him, eyes full of confusion and fear. It made a small choking sound, then tried to drink. But the bottle slipped from its claws and rolled toward Evan. He caught it before it hit the ground. The moment his fingers touched the glass, a pulse of warmth ran through his hand. The bottle glowed brighter, and the baby dragon froze, staring at him with wide eyes. Evan felt his heartbeat echo in his chest. The cave lights flickered as if the whole mountain noticed. "It's okay," he whispered, gently placing the bottle back near the dragon. "See, I won't take it," the baby blinked. Then slowly it crawled closer, sniffing his hand. Its scales brushed his skin, warm and smooth. Evan smiled softly. "You're safe now," he said. "I promise." The dragon made a tiny purring noise and sat beside him, holding its glowing bottle again. Evan sighed in relief. He didn't know what he'd just stepped into, but something deep inside him told him this was no normal baby. Then, from somewhere deeper in the cave, a gust of hot wind swept past him. The baby dragon suddenly stiffened, its wings spreading wide. The light in the bottle flickered, and its eyes filled with fear. Evan turned toward the dark tunnel ahead. Two enormous golden eyes opened in the darkness. The ground shook with a low growl that made his chest vibrate. The air smelled of ash and lightning. The baby dragon whimpered and hid behind Evan's leg. He realized then that he wasn't alone. Something ancient, something royal, had just awakened, and it was watching him. Evan couldn't move. The golden eyes in the darkness stared straight at him, bright, unblinking, and filled with power. The air around him grew hot. Pebbles trembled under his boots. Then a deep rumbling voice echoed through the cave, making his bones shake. "Who dares touch my son's bottle?" The sound was not a shout. It was thunder turned into words. Evan's throat went dry. His flashlight flickered, and in its dim beam, something massive began to move. The shadows peeled away, revealing silver-blue scales that shimmered like firelight on water. The creature unfolded wings wider than the cave itself, and when it lifted its head, The horns brushed the ceiling. It was a dragon, full-grown, proud and terrifying. The baby dragon behind Evan made a soft cry, clutching the bottle tighter. The great dragon's gaze flickered toward it, and her voice softened slightly. "My child." Then her eyes snapped back to Evan, blazing again. "Step away, human." Evan raised his hand slowly. I didn't mean to intrude. I only heard crying. I was trying to help." Flames danced along the dragon's throat, lighting up the cave like sunrise. "Humans do not help dragons," she hissed. "They hunt us. They steal from us." Evan shook his head. "Not me, I swear." His voice trembled, but he didn't run. He looked at the baby who was peeking from behind him. He was scared, hungry. "I just wanted to give the bottle back." For a long moment, the only sound was the rumble of thunder outside. Then, to Evan's shock, the baby dragon crawled forward, right past his leg, and pressed itself against his foot. The mighty dragon froze. Her golden eyes widened. The flames around her throat dimmed. He touched you by choice," she said softly, disbelief filling her voice. Evan didn't understand what was happening, but he knelt beside the baby. "It's okay," he whispered. "Your mom's here." The large dragon stepped closer, lowering her massive head. Her crown-like horns glowed faintly. "You should not be alive, human. My son would never approach another species. Not since." Her words faded, replaced by a deep sadness. Before she could finish, the ground trembled violently. A second roar echoed from deep within the mountain, loud, cruel, and close. Rocks began to fall from above, an aftershock. Evan gasped. The Empress's eyes hardened. "No, the hunters have returned." Chunks of stone crashed around them. The baby cried again, and the Empress spread her wings to shield them. Firelight burst from her chest, illuminating sharp iron traps scattered across the cave floor. Human traps. Old ones, rusted but deadly. Evan saw the anger burning in her eyes. "You think I—" She glared at him. "You came from their kind." "I didn't know." Evan shouted over the roar of the falling rocks. "I swear I didn't know they did this." He grabbed a metal shard and jammed it between the falling stones, stopping part of the collapse. Dust covered his face, his hands bleeding, but he kept pushing. The Empress stared at him, stunned. "You risk your life for my child?" He gasped, voice shaking. "Because he's just a baby. It doesn't matter what he is." The words hit something inside her. The anger in her eyes softened, just for a moment, before another explosion shook the mountain. "Hold on!" Evan shouted, diving toward the baby dragon. He wrapped his arms around the little creature as fire and dust filled the air. The Empress roared, folding her wings around them both like a living shield. The cave collapsed completely, darkness swallowing everything. When the dust finally settled, Evan opened his eyes. The baby was still in his arms, unharmed. Beside him lay the great dragon, breathing heavily, scales cracked and glowing faintly. Evan crawled closer. "You're hurt," he whispered. She looked at him, not with hate this time, but with something uncertain. Respect, maybe even gratitude. "You saved my son," she said quietly. "And for that, human, I owe you a debt no dragon has ever spoken before." Outside, the storm faded, but deep inside the mountain, a new bond had been born, between fire and flesh, between enemies who were never meant to meet, and far away, something ancient stirred, the Dragon Council, already sensing the impossible had happened. The storm had passed, but smoke still rose from the broken mountain. Evan sat beside the injured Empress, his hands trembling as he tried to patch the deep gashes along her wing with torn pieces of cloth. The air smelled of ash and metal. Beside him, the baby dragon. Rin whimpered softly, pressing his snout against Evan's arm as if trying to help. "You're going to be okay," Evan whispered, even though he wasn't sure. His own body ached, his face covered in soot. He had never thought he'd stand this close to a dragon, let alone the queen of them all. The Empress's golden eyes fluttered open. Why do you help me?" she asked, her voice soft but full of disbelief. "I could end your life with a breath." Evan smiled weakly. "Maybe, but you didn't. That means there's still some good left to fight for." The Empress blinked slowly, as if she couldn't understand his words. Dragons were used to fear and worship, not compassion. No human had ever touched one and lived. Yet here he was, his small, fragile hands cleaning her wounds. Rin nudged the Empress's snout gently. "Mama, he's kind." The Empress lowered her gaze to the child, her anger melting into sadness. "You should not trust humans," she murmured. "But he saved me," Rin whispered, clutching his glowing bottle. Evan looked at them both and felt something stir deep in his chest, a warmth that wasn't his own. "You're both safe now," he said quietly. "That's all that matters." Outside, the rain had stopped. Faint sunlight shone through the cracks in the collapsed cave. Evan helped the Empress to her feet, supporting her as she limped out into the open valley. The view stole his breath. The entire mountainside was burning, glowing rivers of lava sliding down from above. Evan shielded his eyes. "We have to move." The Empress turned her head, scanning the distance. "My flight is gone. My soldiers. They will think I'm dead." Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with guilt. Evan hesitated, then said softly, "Then let's prove them wrong." She looked at him sharply, unsure whether to laugh or roar. But something in his eyes stopped her, the steady courage of a man who had no reason to stay, yet refused to leave. Together they climbed higher, Rin clutching Evan's shoulder. When they reached a safe ridge, the Empress collapsed again, exhausted. As she lay there, her scales reflected the golden light of the rising sun. For the first time, Evan saw how beautiful she truly was, like living fire made of glass and moonlight. Then, the bottle in Rin's claws began to glow again. Evan frowned. "That thing, it's alive?" The Empress's eyes widened. "No. It should not respond to you." But it did. When Evan reached out, the glow brightened, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Rin looked between them, eyes wide. "Mama, look." The Empress whispered something ancient under her breath. "The bond of flame," she said, voice shaking. "It has chosen you." Evan blinked. "Chosen me? For what?" She stared at him for a long time before answering. "That bottle is no feeding flask. It holds the life essence of the royal line. You have touched what no human ever should. The bond means the dragon's fire now recognizes you." Evan didn't understand the full meaning, but he saw fear in her eyes, and that was enough to make his chest tighten. "If this bond scares you," he said quietly, "I can walk away." The Empress shook her head slowly. "You cannot. Once the flame accepts a soul, it never lets go." They sat in silence for a long time, the wind whispering across the cliffs. Rin yawned and curled up against Evan's arm, already asleep. The Empress watched the human's gentle hand resting on her son's back. For the first time in her long life, she did not see a fragile creature of dirt and blood. She saw a protector, someone who risked everything for life, not power. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, almost sad. "You have changed the fate of dragons, human, whether for good or for ruin. Time will tell." Evan looked at her, unaware that far beyond the burning hills, the Dragon Council had already felt the bond's awakening and was preparing to strike. The news spread through the Dragon Empire like wildfire. A human had touched the royal heir and lived. Worse, the child had bonded with him. High above the clouds, inside the floating citadel of Vile Dran, the Dragon Council gathered. 12 ancient dragons, each large enough to block out the sun, circled the throne of the Empress. The air was heavy with heat and anger. "This is blasphemy," thundered an old dragon with molten red eyes. "A human holding the prince? Our ancestors will rise from their graves." Another slammed his tail against the marble floor. "Humans killed our kin in the last war." How can you protect one? The Empress, her silver-blue scales shining under the golden light, stood tall and silent, her wings folded close. She had faced storms, wars, and fire. But this was different. She spoke calmly. The human Evan saved my son. Without him, the prince would be dead beneath the mountain. A low growl spread across the chamber. A human's trick, hissed one of the elders. He only wants power. Humans always do. The Empress's eyes flared. Then explain why my son calls him Pa. The council went silent. The flames in the braziers flickered low. None dared speak. But outside the citadel, the world had already chosen sides. Some dragons whispered that the Empress had broken sacred law. Others, especially the younger ones, wondered if the stories about humans were wrong. Meanwhile, deep in the valley below the storm mountains, Evan had built a small shelter of stone and wood. The baby dragon, Rin, followed him everywhere, bumping into his tools and trying to light them on fire. "Careful, kid," Evan laughed softly, patting his scaled head. "You'll burn down my only roof." The Empress watched from a distance. Her heart felt strange, lighter but heavy with fear. She had fought for centuries to keep dragons safe from humans, and now she was hiding one. At night, she sat near the fire while Rin slept curled in Evan's arms. "You have changed him," she whispered. Evan looked up. "Maybe he changed me first." The Empress said nothing, but in her eyes the firelight reflected something she had not felt in ages. Hope. Then the ground trembled. A flash of red lightning lit the sky. From the clouds above, shadows descended, dragon soldiers, their armor burning with the mark of the council. Evan stood up quickly. "What's happening?" The Empress spread her wings. "They have found us." The soldiers landed with thunderous roars, surrounding the valley. Their leader, a black dragon with iron claws, pointed his blade-like tail toward Evan. "By order of the Dragon Council, the human is to be executed." Rin woke and began crying. The sound echoed like a bell through the mountains. "Enough!" the Empress shouted, her voice shaking the air. "He is under my protection." The black dragon's eyes narrowed. "Then you defy the council itself?" "I defy their blindness," she said, stepping between them. "This human saved my son. He deserves honor, not death." Evan felt his hands tremble. He had no weapon, no armor, just a child clutching his sleeve. The soldiers raised their spears, fire sparking at their tips. "Mother," Rin whimpered, hiding behind her tail. The Empress's eyes turned bright gold. The air crackled with power. "If you wish to harm him," she roared, "then you must go through me." Lightning flashed across the valley as hundreds of wings filled the sky. Evan could feel the heat of their flames. He took one deep breath and whispered, "Then I'll stand with you." The Empress looked at him, truly looked, and nodded once. As dawn broke over the valley, the sky filled with the roar of dragons ready for war. And in the heart of it all stood a fragile human and a dragon queen, side by side, protecting. The crying prince, the bond between them now strong enough to shake heaven itself. The valley trembled under the beat of 100 wings. Dark clouds swirled as the Dragon Council's army circled above, black scales flashing in the stormlight, thunder rolling with each roar. Fire rained from the sky like falling stars. Evan stood beside the Empress, gripping a broken spear he'd found near the cave ruins. He had no armor, no shield, and only courage. The baby dragon Rin huddled behind him, his tiny claws clutching the human's coat. "Stay low, kid," Evan whispered, though his voice shook. "Don't move until I tell you." The Empress's wings spread wide, silver-blue light glowing from every scale. Her voice thundered through the valley. "By my flame and crown I command you, and stop this madness." But the soldiers did not stop. Their commander, the iron-scaled General Varkor, sneered. "You have been blinded, my Empress. That human has poisoned your heart." Evan shouted back, "I didn't poison anything. I saved your prince." "Silence, worm," Varkor roared. You speak only because we allow it. The Empress stepped forward, flames forming in her throat. You will not touch him. The sky exploded in motion. Dragons dived like comets. Fire and lightning crashed down. Evan threw himself over Rin as a fireball burst near the ground, shaking the rocks beneath them. The Empress took flight, wings slicing through the smoke. Her roars split the heavens as she clashed with Varkor mid-air, their flames lighting the clouds orange and gold. The valley became a storm of chaos, dragon fire, thunder, and falling stone. Evan dragged Rin behind a ridge, shielding him with his body. Why are they doing this? Evan gasped, coughing from the smoke. Rin whimpered, eyes glowing faintly. They fear you. Me? Evan blinked. I'm no threat. Rin shook his small head. The bond scares them. You touched my bottle. It chose you. They think it means the worlds will mix. Before Evan could answer, a flaming boulder crashed nearby. He threw himself over Rin again. High above, the Empress fought fiercely. Every strike from her claws sent shockwaves through the air, but she was outnumbered. Fire burned her wings, smoke stung her eyes, yet she roared with the fury of 1,000 storms. Fall back, my Empress, shouted one of her loyal guards. Never, she roared. They will not harm my child or his protector. Evan could see her falter, a wound glowing red across her neck. He couldn't just hide anymore. His heart pounded. He picked up a fallen banner pole and wrapped a piece of burning cloth around it. A makeshift torch. His only weapon. He ran straight into the firestorm. Evan, the Empress shouted, diving low. Get back! But he didn't stop. He leapt across the rocks, swinging his torch at a dragon soldier who had landed near Rin. The beast snarled, stunned that a human dared fight back. The heat was unbearable, his arms heavy. Yet Evan struck again and again until the dragon stumbled away. The Empress watched, stunned. A fragile creature of flesh fighting against scaled giants, not for glory, but for her son. Her rage turned to power. With a cry that shook the mountain peaks, she unleashed her true form, her scales igniting with blue fire, her wings wide enough to block the sun. The sky itself seemed to burn. She collided with Varkor one last time, driving him into the storm. The shockwave cracked the clouds open. Lightning blinded the valley. When the fire faded, only silence remained. The sky cleared slowly. Burnt wings fell like dark leaves. The Empress collapsed onto the ground, her strength gone. Smoke curled from her scales. Evan, half-burned and breathless, crawled to her side. Rin ran to her, crying, Mother! The Empress smiled faintly. You are safe, my child. Her voice was soft, weak. The bond saved us all. Her head lowered, eyes closing. The light around her dimmed. Please don't go, Evan whispered, his hand shaking as he touched her snout. You can't leave him. But she was silent. Rin cried louder, pressing against both of them. The broken bottle in his claws began to glow, brighter and brighter until its light wrapped. Around all three of them, the earth pulsed with strange warmth. The wind whispered. Through the scorched valley, something powerful had begun to awaken. The valley was quiet now. Ash drifted through the air like gray snow. The sky was a pale gold after the storm, silent and empty where dragons once roared. Evan lay buried under a pile of broken stone and blackened branches. His body was burned, his breathing faint, but his hand still rested near the tiny form of Rin, the baby dragon. Rin whimpered softly, curling beside him. The glowing bottle lay cracked between them, its light fading slowly. Pa, the baby murmured, his voice trembling. Wake up, please. No answer. The Empress, her scales dull and her wings torn, lifted her head weakly. She had survived, barely. Each breath came with pain, her chest glowing faintly with fading fire. When her eyes fell upon the two small figures lying among the ruins, something deep inside her broke. She crawled toward them, dragging her heavy body across the ground. Evan, she whispered, voice raw and cracked. You foolish human, you saved us all. She touched him gently with the tip of her claw. He didn't move. His skin was pale, his clothes torn. Rin pressed his head against his mother's claw, crying softly. He can't go. He promised me. The Empress closed her eyes, tears of molten silver dripping down her cheeks. For the first time in centuries, the proud ruler of dragons bowed her head to a mortal. "Maybe," she whispered, "maybe his soul will rest in peace among the stars." But then something stirred. A faint pulse. Slow, weak, but real. The broken bottle lying between them began to shimmer once again. Its cracks filled with blue light, spreading like veins through the earth. The air grew warm. Rin gasped. "Mama, look!" The Empress lifted her head as the light grew stronger, surrounding Evan's body. His wounds glowed, not with fire, but with a soft golden warmth. His chest rose once, then again. He coughed. Rin squealed and jumped onto his chest, his small wings flapping wildly. "Pa, you're back." Evan groaned, opening his eyes slowly. His vision was blurry. He saw a small scaly blur crying over him. Then the giant silver-blue shape of the Empress came into focus. He blinked. I thought I was gone." The Empress lowered her head, her massive eyes gentle now. "You almost were," she said quietly. "But the bond would not allow it." Evan frowned weakly. "The bond?" "The bottle," she explained. "It was made from the heart crystal of the first dragon. It carries life and fire together. When you touched it, it marked you as my son's protector. Part of his soul now rests in you." Evan stared at her, not fully understanding, but feeling something powerful. A warmth in his chest that wasn't his own heartbeat. Rin nuzzled him happily. "See, I told you we were family." Evan smiled faintly and ruffled the baby's soft wings. "Guess I can't argue with that." The Empress looked up toward the smoking mountains. In the distance, the surviving dragons hovered, watching silently. None dared attack now. They had seen what the bond had done, the impossible unity of dragon flame and human heart. She rose slowly, her strength returning. "Come," she said. "It is time to go home." "Home?" Evan asked, sitting up with effort. "Yes," she replied. "You will not be safe here, but under my protection, none shall harm you again. The council must see what I have seen." Evan looked around the ruined valley. The sky above was clear again, streaked with the orange glow of sunset. He nodded. "Then let's show them." Rin climbed onto his shoulder, humming softly, his small tail wrapping around Evan's neck. As they walked through the valley together, a human, a dragon child, and a queen. The dying light of the bottle followed behind them, glowing faintly like a trail of hope. The bond between them had broken every rule of their worlds. And somewhere deep inside the Empress's heart, she knew one thing for certain. The future of both species had just changed forever. Weeks passed since the battle that tore the sky apart. The Dragon Empire was quiet, too quiet. No roars echoed through the mountains, no flames danced above the clouds. The dragons were waiting, watching, whispering of the strange human who had lived among their kind and touched the royal heir's soul. Deep inside the golden halls of Vildran Citadel, Evan, Rin, and the Empress stood before the Dragon Council once again. The chamber was vast, carved from molten crystal, its ceiling lost in light. 12 mighty dragons circled them, eyes glowing like suns. The council leader, General Varkor, now scarred from his battle with the Empress, spoke first. "You bring this creature among us again?" he thundered. "This human should have died that day." Evan stood still, not flinching. His clothes were torn, his hands bandaged, but his eyes calm and clear. He looked up at the massive dragons without fear. "If I should have died," he said, voice steady, "then why did your prince bring me back?" Rin fluttered beside him, landing on his shoulder. His wings glowed faintly, a soft blue light pulsing from within his chest. The sight made the entire chamber go silent. The Empress's voice filled the hall, soft but commanding. Because the bond chose him, the heart crystal in the bottle recognized his soul. "The bond is forbidden," hissed one elder dragon. "It was sealed 10,000 years ago to keep dragons and humans apart." "Then maybe it's time to open it again," Evan said quietly. Every dragon turned toward him. The air rippled with heat and disbelief. He took a slow breath. "I don't know your history. I don't know your wars. But I know this, that baby didn't care what I was. He only wanted comfort, and I gave it. Maybe that's all your world needs." The Empress closed her eyes, a faint smile touching her face. "He speaks truth," the council murmured angrily, their tails striking the ground. But before they could protest, Rin fluttered forward and placed his tiny claw on the glowing floor. A circle of light spread from his touch, golden and blue intertwined, the mark of the unity bond. The dragons gasped, the light rose like mist, swirling between Evan and the Empress until it formed a fiery thread, connecting their hearts to Rin's. It shimmered with warmth. Not fire, not magic, but pure life. Varkor stumbled backward, or replacing anger. Impossible. The Empress lifted her head proudly. "This is no curse. This is the beginning." Outside, the sky thundered, not in rage, but in light. The storm clouds parted, and beams of sunlight pierced the citadel. For the first time in centuries, dragons bowed before something other than fear. Evan looked at Rin, who grinned proudly. "See, Pa, they're not angry anymore," he smiled, gently scratching the little dragon's chin. "Guess you did it, little guy." The Empress looked at him with soft eyes. "No, Evan, we did." Years passed. The once broken valley had become a sanctuary, where dragons and humans met, traded and learned together. Children of both species played beside warm rivers, chasing each other's shadows. Evan lived there with Rin, who had grown into a strong young dragon, his scales glowing silver and blue. The Empress visited often, no longer feared, now a symbol of peace. One evening, as the sun set in golden fire, Evan sat beside Rin on a high cliff. The dragon stretched his wings, the wind gliding through his scales. "Do you ever miss your old world?" Rin asked softly. Evan smiled. "I used to, but now, I think I found where I belong." The Empress landed behind them, her wings spreading wide against the sunset. "Both our worlds belong here now," she said, "because one human cared enough to listen to a cry in the dark." Rin leaned his head on Evan's shoulder, purring like distant thunder. Below them, dragons and humans lit fires together, blue and orange, side by side, a symbol of unity that would burn for generations. The Empress looked at the horizon and whispered, "Two hearts, one flame," and as the stars rose over the peaceful sky, the first legend of the new bond of fire was born. A story of a man, a dragon child, and an Empress who dared to believe that kindness could change the fate of two worlds.